Great set. Last week I was discussing where in Halacha does the concept of a chakalei b'chol yom sheyavev, anticipating Moshiach's coming imminently every day, play itself out. So I mentioned a number of things. There's certain things in Gemara in a number of places. The Rishonim also speak about it, where the Gemara says certain things were put into place because certain things are put into place that in case Moshiach comes and people are not going to be aware that the halacha is different now, so therefore the Chachamim instituted certain things that Yidden should do in a certain way, that when Moshiach comes they shouldn't say, oh, last year we did this, so why can't I do again this year? And one particular place, as I mentioned, is there's a whole thing about you're not allowed to eat the new wheat on the second day of Pesach. According to one opinion, you can really start eating it when it gets light. But because we suspect that the Beis HaMikdash might be built at the end of the 15th of Nisan, or the night between the 15th and the 16th, and they won't be ready for the whatever whole thing. I don't want to repeat again the whole thing. The bottom line is, because of a scenario where the Beis HaMikdash would have to be built at a certain specific time, which was a little bit of a far-fetched scenario. Nevertheless, Halacha says that the Chachamim instituted for all generations until Mashiach comes not to eat any of the new grain until the end of the second day of Pesach. Even though technically it could be, according to one opinion at least, it could be argued that it's permissible to eat in the beginning of the day. There's another few examples that I want to mention today. There's a whole discussion about Eicha, right? We say Eicha on Tisha B'Av, and other places they also read Rus and Kehelas and Shira Shirim and Shavuos and Sukkot and Pesach. So there's a discussion why we don't have Eicha written on a parchment like Megillas Esther. We read it in Shul on Tisha B'Av, and some, I don't know though, I think there's a lot spoken about it, but so some opinions state that it should have been written on a cloth. So they say, interesting thing, that which sefer is going to sit down and write a whole cloth of Megillah Seicha, expecting to stay in Golus until Tisha B'Av and to keep it for year to year. Who's going to do that? The Lavush writes this. The Lavush
since printing became. What happened before?
Right. Before they wrote it, partially as part of the Tanakh. But afterwards,
did they use it that time as a brach?
But even then, I don't know. I don't know if the shaila is I don't know about bracha. I don't know. There's a whole background b'chlal about making a bracha on these. But Rav knows brought down. It's also brought down as a famous thing that kinnis people every year would buy a nud because they would keep it in shul. They wouldn't take it home for next year Tisha B'Av. The truth is, I mentioned that the Barditchever says when Moshiach comes, we'll read Eicha, we'll read it with Mal Yusuf, and so this whole Torah doesn't work with that Torah, but okay, whole life from Moshiach will come, we'll figure it out. But it's the Levush in Halacha. He brings down a reason why Eicha wasn't written down on a thing of parchment. Other examples also are, there's an interesting discussion, but even I think one of the Rishonim already writes this as well. The Gemara speaks about in Rosh Hashanah about the laws of when you make Iber year, a leap year. So today it's a set calendar, but originally it was done. The Sanhedrin would sit and convene and would decide if this year needs to be made a leap year. A lot of the considerations involved regarding adding a month so that Yidden should have the ability to come up to the Beis HaMikdash for the month of Nisan. Let's say if there weren't enough sheep or goats for karbonis, or the roads were not set up, whatever. Is looking at the Gemara, that was one of the considerations. They wouldn't only add a month for purely astronomical calculations, but it was also to see if for practical things for that particular year, if the Yid needed more time to prepare for the month for the going up to the Beis HaMikdash. So you have certain instances in Gemara, there's a discussion, they're adding a year because, and it's not adding the year, they're adding the year for Karbonis, it seems, I think was wasn't enough goats, and the question arises, it seems to be already after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. That's what's going on over here. So one of the explanations are, there's two possibilities here. One possibility is that the generation that was right after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, to them, the time of the building of the Beis HaMikdash, the possibility of bringing Karbanos was very real. So they would still be Ma'abed the year, and hoping the Moshiach would come, and then, and they would need to put things in place to make sure the Yidden are able to go up to the Beis HaMikdash to bring Karbanos. Another possibility is brought down by Rabbi Yaakov Emden. The Rebbe actually quoted him a few times. He said an interesting thing, that they used to bring Karbanos. The halacha is that you can bring Karbanos even though there's no Beis HaMikdash. So today, so I once discussed this whole thing today. In those days, at least, right after the destruction of Beis HaMikdash, they still had certain things in place. They knew where the Mizbeach was. They had ashes of the Parah Adumah, maybe. So it could be that for some time they would still bring, even though they didn't have the Beis HaMikdash, they would still bring the Korban Pesach. Regular Karbanos, they wouldn't bring the Korban Pesach. Yeah, whatever it is.
All the discussion recently after 6 day war.
Yeah. So this is, but one of the explanations that he brings, I think even Rishonim mentioned this, is that they would be making the Hebrew year in anticipation of the coming of Moshiach, which then they would need to have this in place. Okay, the truth is there's various minhagim. I mean, it's go and collect all of them, but one of there was one of the go'inim. I think he brings one of the go'inim was a kohen. So he used to make sure no moelim leave their nail big to be able to do the bris right, but he grew his nail long, so he should be ready to do malika. The kohenim, one of the avodas in the Beis HaMikdash was the kohenim would have to take their nail and cut through the neck of a bird. So he grew his nail. He knew he was a kohen. I think he even knew which mishmar he was, whatever it is. So he wanted to be ready. The second Beis HaMikdash is built. He has his. So, the truth is, it's the anticipation of Mashiach is a very real thing, mostly expressed in tefillas, but it's also. I'll get to another few things I want to discuss, but first, I want to discuss. I wanted to discuss another two sugis in Gemara, which are complicated, and I don't want to get too lost in them. And one of them will raise eyebrows by many. And so you have like this. First of all, I mentioned last week, there's a number of places in Gemara where the Gemara clearly, certain things in Halacha were changed or instituted because of the consideration the Beis HaMikdash should be built. Now, there's one very practical instance in Halacha which discusses something which is very relevant and very dependent on Moshiach's coming any second, as if kohenim are allowed to drink wine. A kohen can't do the avodah if he's drunk. What makes him drunk? He doesn't have to drink a bottle of 96 Einziger, but if he drinks even the revius of wine, he has to wait unless he's drinking in the middle of his meal. It doesn't make him drunk. Not part of his meal, it makes him drunk. He has to wait 20 sheer amount of time it takes to walk a meal, which is somewhere between 18 and 24 minutes, to take a little nap. So, are kohenim allowed to drink wine? The Gemara also discusses, are kohenim allowed to let their hair grow long? The Halacha says that a kohen that has his hair long is not allowed to do the avodah in the Beis HaMikdash. I don't want to get stuck in the sugya. There's a number of questions from all sides and angles to speak about, but anyway, the Gemara brings us two opinions here. And there's many ways to learn this Gemara. I mentioned last week there's a sefer, Malon Ba'Kodesh. I'm not saying everything he writes can't argue with, but he does a nice collection, and particularly in this sugya from different Rishonim. It's Malon Ba'Kodesh, Chelek Chav Zayin. Someone over there writes a whole article. Focuses a lot on this. The Gemara brings a machlokes between the Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi and Rebbe. The Chachamim say that a kohen that knows, the Chachamim hold that any kohen that knows when his day in the Beis HaMikdash is, so he's not allowed to drink wine on that day. Sometimes he only knows which week he is, not which day, because different family was one general family which worked for the whole week, and that family itself was subdivided into smaller, more smaller families. So you might not know which general family comes from, not which particular family comes from. But anyway, so he says, if he knows which day or week, whatever it is that he's supposed to work in the Beis Hamikdash, so then he's not allowed to drink wine, and he's not allowed to drink wine on that day that he knows he's supposed to work, or in that week. Now, if he doesn't know which day or even which week he's supposed to be there, but he knows that his ancestors worked in the Beis Hamikdash, there's different kohen. I don't want to get involved in different things that the kohen weren't set into work, whatever it might be. But he knows that his ancestors worked. He's not allowed to drink wine any time of the year because he doesn't know which day. When Moshiach comes today. Maybe Punkt today is the day that his family is going to work in the Beis Hamikdash. And if he's drunk, he's not going to be ready to do the Avodah. So the Gemara says, Rebbe says, Rebbe says, theoretically I would say that every kohen is not allowed to drink wine anytime. And this is the Gemara here in Tainus and Daf Yud Zayin and Sanhedrin Daf Chav Beis. Rashi says, I don't want to get into this difference. Whoever wants to be mine in the Lomdus, Savil of Brocha, but I don't want to confuse people over here. But Rashi basically says that I say that any kohen, even somebody knows which day his family worked in the Beis Hamikdash, it could be when Moshiach will come, will be called up to duty nevertheless. Maybe there won't be enough kohenim, or things will, whatever it might be. So theoretically, any kohen should not drink wine forever. So he says, what should I do that what the problem itself fixes him up? In other words, the reason why he shouldn't drink wine is the reason makes it that he should drink. The fact that the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed makes it he's able to drink wine. What does this mean? There's a number of opinions. Some of the some of the explanations in the Gemara is that a kohen needs to know when first of all, kohenim, not everyone knows for sure. I mean, the Gemara is speaking about people that know they were kohenim. Not everyone knows that they're kohenim. People, that some a lot of today the kohenim are called kohenei chazaka, the kohenim which, they have a chazaka. They're kohenim. The Moshiach will tell exactly everyone who's a kohen. Kohenim also need to know which family they're from. So basically, he says that a kohen, when Moshiach comes, doesn't have to be have to be a bitter who's from which family, who does the avodah. It's not going to be, in other words, since the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed and everything is mixed up, so to say. So kohen, you can't prohibit the kohen from drinking because there's so many things that have to be. Beis Hamikdash has to decide who's going to work when, whatever it is. So you can't forbid him from drinking wine. Again, it's looking in the Rambam and Hilchos Bias Mikdash Perek Aleph Halacha Zayin, and the Ravid questions the Ram, whatever it is. It's that's one way of understanding the Gemara. So Rashi over here says something which is a lot of people ask on Rashi. What does this mean? Rashi says. What does it mean takanase kalkalase? The havikam shonim shlechazer b'ir. It says a number of years. Rebbe was already a number of years, 100 years. I'm not exactly sure the numbers after the destruction of Beis Hamikdash. The kalkolozu takanase lishtis yain behedi l'shemi yibana leichashinon. Since basically the way it sounds like Rashi is saying, since Moshiach didn't come yet, so he's not allowed to drink wine because maybe Moshiach will come the second. He didn't come yet for so many years, so. To say that he's going to come now in Sanhedrin, Rashi uses even more of a stronger law. I think this is more Rashi's intention. Rashi says, I'm not afraid that all of a sudden the Beis Hamikdash should be built. Now, people ask, the simple sign, I've seen Greisa Chachamim that they say from Rashi over here. Just ridiculous. That Rashi is saying, Moshiach hasn't come from so long, so we're not afraid he's going to come. We don't have to suspect he'll come now. Logically, it's ludicrous because Moshiach is definitely coming. So he has to come at some point. So the fact that it didn't come until now, it's not as if, like I said this famous word many times, you have a friend that tells you he's going to come at night, and he comes, gets late, he's not coming, then chances are, the longer you wait, the more of a chance he's not going to come. There's someone you know for sure he's coming, a parent, someone you know has to come home that night and says they're coming home. The more time it takes, the more time he tarries, the more of a reason to say that he's coming now. So what does it mean? Because so many years passed, therefore he's not coming. It's a fact that he's going to come. Just because he didn't come then doesn't mean he won't come now. Furthermore, like the word that I just mentioned, it's brought down a few places, but on the Rambam, Nari Kurkus was printed recently. He asks this question. He says the fact that it didn't come until now is more of a reason to believe that he's coming now. For the same reason that I told you, the more he tarries, more reason he should come now. So there's various understandings of it. One simple understanding, I think, which is almost clear in the Rashi in Sanhedrin, although Rashi over there has a little bit of a different way of interpreting the Gemara here. For those who will look and they'll see, but is that he's saying like this: there's a number of factors a person, in order for him not to drink wine, it has to be that all of a sudden Moshiach will come within an hour or two. The Beis Hamikdash will be built and will be ready for Avodah at that time. So, in the generation that was right after the Churban Beis Hamikdash, they lived the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. For them, the existence of the Beis Hamikdash, the Avodah of Karbanos, was still real in their mind. For them, they there was hope that Mashiach will come at any second. But now that they see that the Galus, that things are they're stuck in Galus. So Mela, that somebody, in other words, like this. Obviously, we're not saying that a person shouldn't hope that Mashiach should come this second. But Halacha l'maisa, to prohibit a person from drinking wine, because maybe the Beis Hamikdash will be built within an hour or two, which means the Mashiach will come in two ways. He can come in a way of beat and a way of achishana. He come in they come in its time, which also means not only a time or before its time. It could come in an immediate way, in a 1, 2, 3, or it could come in a process. So in other words, that I should be in that level that Halacha tells me I have to be choishes Mashiach can't drink wine because Beis Hamikdash should be built right away. I can't prohibit people from drinking wine. That's one way of understanding. The other Rishonim add other stronger words. They say that it's like a gzeira shinat tzibur l'chol lamibah. It's something that you can't make everyone prohibited from drinking wine. So it's not as if that
Kehanim.
Kehanim. So no, it's not something that like the way some people put it is that the Kohanim followed the Rebbe's opinion, and we didn't stop them. In other words, it's not as if that the Chacham necessarily initially this is what was the ideal way of conduct, but you can't prohibit Kohanim from drinking wine. They'll say, I'm not going to be intoxicated indefinitely. I'm just taking wine right now. Whatever. There's various other ways of learning this Gemara, not like Rashi, completely not like Rashi. You look in let's say the Maharsha and even others, they give whole other ways of understanding this Gemara. Why there's other reasons that in this particular, in other words, that there's other considerations over here. It's not just that the Rebbe is saying that we're not choishish that the Beis Hamikdash should be built right now. There's other reasons why in this particular case you can't, for example, one thing like I mentioned, Mashal mentioned, not everyone knows that they're Kohen in the first place. And there's a list of other ways of understanding the Gemara, but I don't want to get into that. Now, there's another Gemara which clearly is connected with this Gemara, which is if somebody says that I'm accepting upon myself to be a Nazir on the day Mashiach comes. Also very complicated Gemara, but I'm not going to get stuck with all the complications. So the Halacha says he's not allowed to drink wine forever. Except, I don't want to get into the whole thing, whatever it is, if it makes his neder on the Shabbos, whatever it might be. I don't want to, all the nuances are not relevant right now. So now, there's want to put that, I'll have to look it up another time. There also is there's many nuances in that Gemara exactly when there are some days if he makes his neder on a Shabbos or a Yom Tov, then he's allowed to drink wine, but afterwards he's not allowed to. So it's different, but there also is one place in Halacha where you see that the fact that Moshiach could come any day affects him halacha l'maisa that he can't drink wine. Now, what I wanted to say is that this is mitzad. I just wanted to discuss some things in Gemara and Halacha, how it's reflected. This idea of how Mashiach's coming does affect Halacha l'maisa. There's one very important point to keep in mind, which I discussed once in the past. The Rebbe speaks about interesting episode in the Gemara about Rabbi Yishmael, who he did a sin that he needed to bring a korban chatas. He needed to bring a korban, a sin offering that he would bring when Moshiach, when the Beis Hamikdash stood. There was no Beis Hamikdash in his days, and he wrote down on his diary. He says, "I did a sin. I need to bring a korban chatas when Moshiach will come." Chatas Shmeina, yeah. And the question is, why don't we see anyone doing it today? And the Rebbe establishes a very fundamental understanding. The Rebbe says, for someone to be obligated to bring a sin offering, he has to, let's say, for him, the concept of bringing a sin offering has to be real to him at the time he does an Aveda. For Rabbi Yishmael, he was at the level that for him, the building the Beis Hamikdash was so real, the possibility of the building Beis Hamikdash was so real that he felt was a real thing to him, the concept of bringing a korban chatas for an Aveda that he committed Bizman Hazeh, and this time. For a regular person, the Rebbe says it's like a concept the Rebbe discusses. Someone that doesn't even know that this is a sin in the first place, or whatever it is. It's deeper than even that. In such a case, he really is obligated to bring a korban chatas. The Rebbe says a fundamental concept in the time of Galus. For us, since we don't understand this, since we never experienced the Beis Hamikdash in real life and understood and saw the concept of bringing a korban for a sin, we don't understand the severity of the sin, and we realize that it has to bring a korban. For us, it's not real to us, the whole concept that a sin is so severe you have to actually bring a korban if you did it by mistake. So since for us the concept of bringing a korban is not real, the Rebbe says even when Mashiach comes, you won't need to bring a korban. Because you can't be mechayiv someone a korban when someone was living in such a state where the whole idea of bringing the korban for a sin was not real to him. In a certain sense, I'm not saying this is Pshat in Rebbe's words, but I think this is tied in to some degree. But in other words, la halacha l'maisa, certain people that are living with a certain consciousness, so halacha tells them, like Rabbi Yishmael, he was obligated to bring a korban. But someone, again, I'm just saying, maybe...
Rabbi Yishmael was Mizman Beis Hamikdash.
No, he was after. Yeah.
But he knew people that was maybe...
The Rebbe says, one place the Rebbe says that there was a Svara, not Rabbi Yishmael Kohen Gadol, but Tana Rabbi Yishmael.
No, was it King Gadol?
Kohen Gadol, yeah, that's Zogyev, that's Tana Rabbi Yishmael, okay.
But I think in a certain sense, not discussing the halachic aspect of it, but in other words, there's a certain concept that for someone something is not real, to stop him from doing something. When Mashiach will come, we'll figure out which kohenim will do the avodah. There's another sort. It's also mentioned that a kohen that's not, when one kohen drinks, there'll still be kohenim that don't drink. So you prohibit every single kohen, because maybe the base, maybe he will be needed dafka. Whatever. There's many different answers given over here. But b'chol life, and I think, I'm not discussing in Pshat and Gemara, but I think in the background of understanding this concept, it's important to understand. I think there's a certain musik here that for someone in time of Galus, what the Rebbe is saying, that not that obviously we're hoping and praying the Beis Hamikdash will be built quickly, but for someone that should affect, that halacha should say because of that mentality, that it should affect his readiness in Geil Poil, that halacha should say that that's the way his mental mindset is working. We know, unfortunately, not everyone is on that level. But I'm not saying that's why the halacha is this way.
The person who does the malacha, Shabbos, when they're sleeping, it's chayav chatas.
Yes, if it ever goes into somebody that grew up in Hagoyim, we didn't know he could Shabbos, he's still chayav chatas. Forget exactly what L'shenis the Rebbe uses there, that over here was like a musa, like he doesn't even understand that this up. But Rebbe says even more, and Zman HaGol is even more than that. Whatever. I just wanted to finish off. There's There's a few other minhagim. There's even stories of people. It's interesting. You know, you had certain Gedolei Yisrael. We know different stories, different people that stood in the readiness for Mashiach. For example, the Chafetz Chaim. Now, people don't know the whole Shmiras Haloshin campaign. The Chafetz Chaim started. Why did he start the Shmiras Haloshin campaign? He started the Shmiras Haloshin campaign because he says, what's holding back Yidden in Galus? Sinas Chinam, Lashon Hara. That was the main force that was pushing him in the Shmiras Haloshin campaign. So yeah, different Gedolei Yisrael in different ways that, you know, Koch Zich and Mashiach, but it's just interesting to know certain facts. He had, for example, the Bnei Yisachar, he had a menorah that he made with a glass encasement, so when Mashiach comes and they're going to light again outside, so he should be ready for Mashiach. Where you had
size of the menorah.
Menorah for Chanukah. Chanukah menorah for himself. You had was a son of. Now you light the menorah inside. You don't need a glass encasement so the wind shouldn't blow it out because you're lighting the menorah indoors. But he had a menorah ready with a glass encasement, and when it's light outside, the wind shouldn't blow it out. You had there was a son of the Heilige Rishner. His name was Menachem Nachum from Stephanus. I don't know how you say exactly his name. There's no the Rishner Eineklach. They made big palaces. You know, so he had a room that was called Moshiach Zimmer. He had a room. He said Mashiach will live there when he comes. And there was a crown he made for Mashiach. There's a whole interesting story behind this crown. It's now in a museum in England somewhere, a whole Gilgal. He made a crown for Mashiach. It's among the Chassidim. It's a known thing. They're trying to get it back now. You had in bells. Everyone must have heard of the bells of Shul, the first bells that Rav made. He had a place. He had a door called Mashiach's Tir. And he said over there, it sounds reminiscent a little bit, and people made a whole thing of based on Rabbeinu Shavabavol, the things he said about his shul. He said when Mashiach will come, this will be one of the 12 shul, it will be on the Har HaBayis. I think he said there will be 12 shuls on the Har HaBayis, and Mashiach will go through this door, will go through his shul, on his way to do the Avodah on Yom Kippur, and whatever it is. And he had a special door they had called Mashiach's Tir, that was the door that Mashiach will go through.
It's not in today's.
Today was I don't know what they have today.
They copied the show.
I don't know if they copied all the.
Yeah.
But I'm saying you had the Gedolei Yisrael that for them was a very real thing, and they prepared different things. Anyway, so even if halacha, you have even the Sfadim, they have a minhag Tisha B'Av after Chatzos, they clean up the house, getting ready for Mashiach. Be halacha, dry halacha, you might question. Tisha B'Av not supposed to, but it was a certain. Yeah, but I'm saying it expressed itself in the minhag Yisrael. In other words, Mashiach Sud is something we all know about. That Rebbe spoke many times on. You make things of Mashiach Dama Basek Yipsare, but you had. It's just interesting facts. People, that how people lived with the concept. Fine, it is. We'll sign take it from the Admamish.
Ze meen het. Maar I remember hearing it from the Rebbe.
Zich alleen is niet genoeg, hè? But the Rebbe